Andrew Carnegie. I mean, you've definitely seen that name around, right? On a library, a university, maybe Carnegie Hall. He's the ultimate American dream story, a penniless immigrant who ends up becoming the richest man on the planet. But, and this is a big but, his story is so much more complicated than just rags to riches. All right, let's dive into the life of this man who was somehow both an industrial titan and a revolutionary philanthropist.
So right at the heart of the Andrew Carnegie story is this massive contradiction. It's like there were two completely different Carnegies living in one body. On one side, you've got the ruthless tycoon, a guy who ran his steel mills with bone-crushing 12-hour shifts and absolutely demolished any attempt by his workers to unionize. Then, on the other side, you have this visionary benefactor who gave us over 2,500 libraries, funded universities, and poured millions into trying to achieve world peace. So how on earth can one guy be both? That's really the big question we're going to try and unpack here.
Okay, so first up, how did he make all that money? I mean, a truly staggering amount of money. Well, it wasn't just luck. It was all about a brilliant and frankly revolutionary business strategy that was centered on just one thing: steel.
The secret sauce to his total dominance was this idea called vertical integration. Now, I know that sounds like some boring business school term, but the concept is actually incredibly simple. Own everything. Instead of buying your raw materials from one company and paying another company to ship them and then another to process them, Carnegie's idea was to just own the whole shebang yourself.
Here's his playbook, and it's a masterclass in control. Step 1, he went out and bought the mines that had the iron ore and the coal. You know, the basic ingredients you need for steel. Step 2, he needed to get all that rock to his factories. So what did he do? He bought fleets of ships and built his own railroads. And finally, step 3, he built the biggest, baddest, most high-tech steel mills in the world. By controlling every single link in the chain, he cut out all the middlemen. Nobody could even come close to his prices.
And this quote from him, it says it all. While everyone else was diversifying, spreading their bets around, Carnegie went all in. He poured every dollar and every ounce of his focus into mastering one industry. He didn't just want to play in the steel market. He wanted to be the steel market.
And the result of all this, it was just insane. Get this. By the turn of the century, his one company, based out of Pittsburgh, was pumping out more steel than the entire British Empire. Let that sink in for a second. The UK, the country that started the Industrial Revolution. The scale of his success was something the world had just never seen before.
But, and this is a huge but, all of that incredible efficiency, all of that wealth, it came at a price, a really steep human price. Because that same obsession with cutting costs that made him a business genius, yeah, it also made him an absolutely notorious employer.
For the men working in his mills, life was just brutal. We're talking 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, in insanely dangerous conditions with molten metal all around, and all of it for rock-bottom pay. And if you even thought about forming a union to ask for better treatment, forget about it. Carnegie had a zero-tolerance policy. He saw unions as a direct threat to his efficiency and his control.
All this tension was like a powder keg, and in 1892, at his Homestead steel plant, it finally exploded. His manager, a hard-nosed guy named Henry Frick, locked out the union workers. Then he tried to bring in 300 armed Pinkerton agents by river barge to secure the plant, and a literal battle broke out, a gunfight. Eventually, the state militia was called in, the strike was broken, and the union was completely crushed. It's one of the darkest, most violent moments in American labor history.
And where was Carnegie while all this was going down? He was thousands of miles away on vacation in a castle in Scotland. I'm not making this up. Publicly, he tried to sound regretful, but his private letters show he was 100% behind Frick's brutal, hardline tactics. He got the financial benefit of a crushed union while keeping his public image relatively clean. So after building this mind-boggling fortune on the back of his steel empire, Carnegie does another complete 180. He does something even more radical for the time. He sits down and develops a whole philosophy for giving it all away. He called it the gospel of wealth.
Now, the central idea of this philosophy was revolutionary. Carnegie argued that if you're super rich, all that extra money you have, it isn't really yours. He said you're just a trustee, a caretaker for the community, and you have a deep moral duty to use that fortune to make society better. This was a wild idea in an age when most tycoons were just building bigger and bigger private mansions. He was super clear about it, too. He said there were wrong ways and a right way to handle a giant fortune. Leaving it all to your kids? Bad idea. He said it would just spoil them and kill their ambition. Bequeathing it for charity after you die? Also not great, because it often gets wasted or mismanaged. For him, the only right way was for the wealthy to use their own smarts and skills to give their fortunes away for the public good while they were still alive. But this wasn't about just giving people handouts. His big thing was providing tools for self-improvement. He called them ladders upon which the aspiring can rise. The goal wasn't just charity, it was empowerment. It was that old idea of teaching people how to fish, not just giving them a fish.
So in 1901, Carnegie sells his steel company to J.P. Morgan for about $480 million, which made him, by far, the richest man in the world. And from that day on, he pretty much retired from business and took on a new full-time job, putting his gospel of wealth into practice.
His most famous legacy, without a doubt, is the public library. He funded the construction of over 2,500 of them across the globe. For Carnegie, who was largely self-educated, a free library wasn't just a building with books. It was the ultimate ladder, the perfect tool for anyone, no matter how poor, to improve themselves.
This became his personal motto, the creed that drove him for the last 2 decades of his life. He was absolutely on a mission to die poor. He truly believed it was a moral disgrace to hang on to immense wealth. And you know what? He almost did it. He gave away over 90% of his fortune by the time he died.
And his giving was incredibly strategic. As you can see, it wasn't just about libraries. That was the biggest slice of the pie, sure. But he also poured massive amounts of money into education and research. He founded Carnegie Mellon University. He created pension funds for teachers. He established huge foundations dedicated to promoting world peace. He even created these hero funds to reward everyday citizens for acts of bravery. It was a whole portfolio of trying to make the world better.
So this brings us full circle, right back to where we started. After looking at the empire he built and the fortune he gave away, what's the verdict? How in the world do we remember a guy like Andrew Carnegie?
I think this table really captures that impossible duality. You have the industrialist who perfected a model of capitalism that was incredibly efficient, but was also built on the backs of exploited workers. And then you have the philanthropist, who took that exact same money and pioneered a new model of giving it back, creating the very infrastructure for opportunity that his own workers were so often denied.
His influence on modern philanthropy is, well, it's undeniable. The whole idea that giving should be strategic, that you should attack the root causes of problems, not just the symptoms, that all comes from Carnegie. He basically invented the modern professional foundation. And when you hear about people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett creating the Giving Pledge, they explicitly point back to Carnegie's gospel of wealth as their inspiration. His ideas are still shaping the world today.
Which leaves us with this final thorny question. Was Carnegie's model just a justification? A way to be absolutely ruthless in business and then wash it all clean with charity at the end? Or was it a genuine, if seriously flawed, blueprint for using the engine of capitalism to actually build a better world? The answer, just like the man himself, remains a totally fascinating and totally unresolved paradox.